Hey, what's up guys? So we're going to be talking about what's popular on Dueling Network, and it is today, Thursday, August 16th, so be expected to play a lot of these decks. So for the, I'd say, most popular decks right now, we have been seeing so much One Day at Peace, Hope for Escape, Exodia, the Jarrell Winston build, very popular deck, and I've seen it, win a lot of games. It's not too interesting to watch, but I will be making a video on how to beat it, because it is a pretty simple deck to, side against, but, game one, sometimes they just open up with the right cards, and, they go off from there. Next up, E-Heroes, very popular deck because, with Heroic Champion Excalibur just coming out, we're going to see a lot more heroes, and, it's a pretty good deck, too. And it is pretty fun to play as well. And we see Chaos Dragons, very popular deck still. I mean, it is a really easy deck to run. It's got a lot of really cool looking monsters in it as well. And overall, Chaos is a pretty strong archetype, I would say. Next up, Dark Worlds. And interesting, I was kind of surprised since Dark Worlds did terrible, I would say, personally, at World Championships. Inzectors just rolled all over them all the time. And what's interesting, I didn't really see any more players playing Inzectors, perhaps because they've realized Inzectors are going to get hit so hard, why bother playing them? But I figure, this is like the last few weeks that you'll be able to play Inzectors because they will probably get hit pretty hard. So Dark Worlds, very popular deck. It is still good. Dragdown's still arguably, kind of like a trap dash shoot essentially, except for you get to like kind of plus even more because get to send that card to the graveyard so they can't even potentially draw into it later on. Next up, Wind-Ups, still pretty popular deck. I mean, it's Wind-Ups, they can loop your hand. Next, Lavall is a very popular deck. I'm not sure if this deck will get hit too hard by the ban list. I know in OCG, it is a very popular deck over there, and it has topped multiple times, so perhaps people just want to play it and in hopes that it won't get hit. But here in the TCG, we haven't really got to really essentially see it impact our meta. But I know it is a very good deck, and first time Quasar Dragon for any deck is very difficult to deal with. And last we have Dino Rabbits for the very popular like tier 1. I call all these decks near tier 1 area. We see Dino Rabbit's still popular. I mean, it's still a very strong deck as long as you get to go first and open up with Rabbit. You have a instant, out to a lot of different cards. And next up for other small decks I've been seeing a lot of these other small tier decks. I would say these are just a little bit lower tier, or not as popular. We have Gravekeepers, are still a pretty good deck. Just because, affecting the graveyard. What's interesting, I feel like Gravekeepers have a pretty good matchup against Heroes, honestly, because everything has such high attack and defense, and it runs over pretty much all the aliases and, all the Stratoses that get summoned first turn. It has a pretty decent matchup, as well as, them not being able to remove cards from the graveyard. They can't Miracle Fusion once Necro Valley's not on the field, and that kind of does hurt them. It forces them to go for an Exceeds, and Gravekeepers have a lot of good back row. They have Deep Prisons, the Bottomlesses, and all that stuff. So Gravekeeper, pretty interesting deck, and I'd say it has a decent matchup against Heroes. And then next up, Six Samurai, still a very popular deck. I mean, the Structure deck got released a while ago, and a lot of people are still trying to play Six Sams. I think it's, it is still a decent deck as long as you are able to go and open up with Gateway. You basically have a really good advantage over your opponent, and generally when you open up with Gateway, you guys know how it is. It just sets up a really good, it's like kind of like the Future Fusion in like Dragons. You open up with first turn, you're good to go. And then I've seen a lot of Agents, which makes me excited because, as you guys know, I was a big fan of the Agent archetype. I thought it was a really cool deck, and I think it's a very good deck. Too, I mean, Gotchi first turn, even if you can get out like double Gotchi first turn with like a TG Striker, double Gotchi is deadly for any deck to really deal with. And then I've been seeing a lot of Frog Monarchs / Sea Lancer Monarchs. It's an okay deck. I just feel, any Monarch variant is kind of too slow, especially the way the game is at the moment. It's just really fast. So yeah, those are these are the popular decks up here. I'd say be expected to play against these, but don't be surprised if you see some of these other decks over here that I've placed at the bottom. But these are what I've been seeing on Dueling Network for people that are rated basically 1,000 plus, because I know Dark Magician might be there on Dueling Network, but I don't think you'll be playing against that deck. The Spellbook deck is also a kind of an interesting archetype, but I'll talk about more about that once we have all the cards that are coming out really soon in Return of the Duelist. But yeah, that's what's popular on Dueling Network this week, guys. But thanks for watching. Asian Eyes White Dragon, signing out.